I never planned to tell this story, but after what happened, I need to say it out loud. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. But I can't keep it inside anymore. My name is Karen Miller. I'm 48. And this is about how I became a mother when I never meant to be one. When Melissa came back years later, her first word wasn't hello. It was, debt. And I knew she wasn't talking about money. But let me start from the beginning. One night there was a knock on my door. I opened it and saw 3 children standing there. Emily and Sophie were holding Michael by the hand. Their eyes were red from crying. Their clothes smelled of smoke and noodles. Their backpacks looked almost empty. Michael clutched an old canvas one, zipped up tight, as if he was ready to run at any moment. Emily whispered, "Mom said we're staying here tonight." I let them in. They ate bread straight from the bag, not waiting for me to cook. I sat down and thought, what is happening to them when I'm not around? My sister Melissa was always the golden child. She was pretty bold, reckless. Our parents, Robert and Helen, looked at her and sighed but never stopped her. I was the opposite. The responsible one. The scapegoat. The one who had to clean up. Melissa had Emily and Sophie at 20, Michael a year later. Their father left when she found out about his affairs. He paid child support and disappeared. That left her alone with 3 kids. Her apartment always smelled the same. Stale laundry, cigarettes, cheap food. I would come home from work, and the children were already waiting by my door. Sometimes Melissa called, "I'm working late, pick them up." Sometimes she didn't, and they just appeared. Our parents told me, "Karen, don't make trouble. She's still their mother." I wanted to believe them, but one evening Emily showed me her wrist. A bruise circled it. "I fell," she said quickly. Sophie stared at the floor, silent. Michael whispered, "I don't want to go back there." I froze. I kept asking myself, was I stealing her kids? Or saving them? One time when I dropped them off, Melissa looked at her daughters and sneered. "Don't think Aunt Karen loves you more. She just wants people to pity her." The girls lowered their heads. Michael clung to his backpack like it was armor. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent. That silence felt safer. The years passed. I cooked meals, checked homework, let them sleep on my couch when Melissa didn't come home. They left little signs. Once I found a folded note in Sophie's bag. "Don't leave us with her." I kept that note hidden in my drawer for years. When Emily and Sophie turned 18, they showed up at my door with bags packed. Michael followed a year later. "We can't stay with her anymore," they told me. Melissa came storming in behind them, shouting, "Thief! You stole my life." I wanted to say that she never raised them, that they raised themselves. But I stayed quiet. My small house was crowded, the hallway narrow, but the kids felt free for the first time. Melissa cut off all contact. Even with our parents. She erased herself from the family rather than face the truth. 7 years later, Emily teaches, Sophie runs a salon. Michael is a pediatrician. They survived. They grew. But the past never leaves quietly. And when it came back, it knocked on my door again. I opened it. Melissa stood there, eyes sharp, voice cold. Her first word wasn't hello. It was, debt. And the way she said it, I knew she didn't mean money. She meant a fight, custody, lawyers, maybe even child services. The letter didn't say money. It said custody. That single word froze my hands as I sat in the lawyer's office, the paper shaking between my fingers. For years I worried Melissa would come back for money. But this was worse. She wanted control. She wanted them back. Always back. My stomach turned cold as I read the lines. The court date was blank, but the threat was clear. I kept hearing her voice at my door, sharp and cold. Debt. When I opened it that night, Melissa's eyes were empty. No warmth, no regret. Just hunger. "You owe me, Karen," she said. "They're mine. Always were." Emily had stepped closer behind me, but I blocked her view. Sophie froze halfway down the stairs. Michael's shadow lingered in the hallway. I answered quietly, "They made their choice." Melissa laughed, bitter and loud. "Choice? You brainwashed them against me. You poisoned them with your pity." She leaned closer, her breath sharp with smoke. "A real mother doesn't lose her children. The court will see that. And they'll never forgive you for turning them against their own mother." My chest tightened. What if she was right? What if the court believed her? What if after all these years I lost them? Our parents got dragged back into it almost immediately. Mom called the next day. Karen, maybe she has a right. They're still her children. I gripped the phone until my knuckles turned white. Mom, I said, do you remember the bruises? Do you remember the nights they slept at my place because she never came home? Silence. Dad mumbled in the background. Let it be, Helen. They didn't want to fight. They never did. That night Melissa showed up again. She threw her words like knives. You think you're the savior? You think they'll testify for you? Blood wins, Karen. Always. My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady. We'll see. She smirked. We will. Hours later, when the house was finally quiet, Michael went to lock the front door. The hallway felt colder than usual. His fingers brushed against something on the floor. A white envelope. He bent to pick it up. The paper crinkled in his hands, louder than any sound in the quiet house. His voice cracked when he called, Aunt Karen. Inside wasn't a bill. It was a petition. Custody hearing. Date already set. I didn't know then that she already had people ready to lie for her. The petition sat on my kitchen table for days. None of us touched it. Every time I passed, my chest tightened. Emily read it first. Her hands shook. She wants custody of us? We're adults. Her voice broke. Sophie grabbed her arm. That's not what she wants. She wants power. She wants to say she won. Michael stood in the corner, his backpack on the floor by his feet, just like when he was a boy. He said quietly, what if the court believes her? I didn't answer. Because that was the question burning inside me. The first lawyer I met was blunt. She'll argue neglect. That you interfered. She'll push for damages. Custody isn't just about children. It's about reputation. He tapped the petition with his pen. She wants to erase your story and replace it with hers. I walked home in silence. The winter air stung my cheeks. My phone buzzed. Mom again. Karen, she said. Maybe she has a right. They're still her children. I stopped on the sidewalk staring at the frozen ground. Mom, she didn't just make mistakes. She abandoned them. She hurt them. My mother sighed, tired. You've always been too hard, Karen. Too cold. That night I sat with Emily and Sophie. The girls were tense, whispering more to each other than to me. Sophie finally spoke. She's already talking to people. Old neighbors. Mom's friends. She's saying you locked us away. That you kept us from her. My heart sank. Emily added. One of her friends messaged me. Said, blood is blood. You'll regret choosing her over your own mother. Michael slammed his hand on the table. She's turning it around. She's making you the villain. His voice cracked. And maybe people will believe her. Later I heard something worse. Melissa had told one of Mom's friends. Karen only wanted them so she wouldn't be alone. That lie cut deeper than any bruise. The house felt smaller that night. Every sound was sharper. The ticking clock. The wind pushing against the windows. I sat alone after they went to bed. The petition still on the table. My hands pressed against it, trying to steady myself. I kept asking, was I ready to fight her in court? Was I strong enough to watch her twist the truth again? Just before midnight, the phone buzzed on the counter. The sound was violent in the silence. The glow of the screen lit the room blue. My throat closed as I read the words. For of them, see you in court. The phone trembled in my hands. I didn't know then that she already had witnesses lined up to swear against me. The courthouse smelled of old paper and bleach. My shoes clicked too loud on the tiles. Emily and Sophie walked on either side of me, Michael behind. Their faces were pale, tense. When we reached the waiting room, I froze. Melissa was already there. She sat straight, a smug smile on her lips. Beside her were two women I recognized, our old neighbors and one of Mom's closest friends. My stomach dropped. Witnesses. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, louder than Melissa's lawyer's voice when he greeted her. The air carried the bitter smell of coffee from a paper cup in his hand. A draft slipped under the heavy courthouse doors, raising goosebumps on my arms. Melissa leaned forward. Told you, Karen. Blood remembers. They'll speak for me. Sophie clenched her fists. Emily whispered. She paid them. Or promised something. Michael muttered. Doesn't matter. People love a good story. My lawyer sat beside me scribbling. The pen squeaked against the pad. Across the room, Mom and Dad arrived. Mom avoided my eyes, clutching Dad's arm. She sat beside Melissa. Her whisper reached me anyway. Karen, don't make this worse. The betrayal stung sharper than any shout. The clerk called names, the sound echoing in the small hall. One of the neighbors stood up, smoothing her coat. She glanced at Melissa, then at me. Melissa smirked. My heart pounded as the judge entered. His voice was firm, clipped. Preliminary hearing. Petitioner Melissa Carter. Respondent, Karen Miller. My name sounded strange, foreign. Like I didn't belong to it anymore. Melissa's lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, my client seeks recognition of her rights as mother. She has been denied access, manipulated, and vilified. We will prove respondent isolated these children and turned them against their parent. His words cut into me. Emily's hand slid into mine. Sophie's nails dug into her palm. Michael stared at the floor. My lawyer rose. These children are adults. They were never taken. They escaped abuse. And we have evidence. The judge nodded, expression unreadable. We'll set a full hearing. Evidence and witnesses will be heard. I didn't know then that this was only the beginning. Melissa had more lined up. As the room emptied, Melissa passed close to me. She whispered, sharp as a knife. They'll believe me. They always do. And when they do, you'll be alone again. That night back home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Michael went to close the blinds. He froze. Aunt Karen, he said softly. I turned. In the yard under the streetlight, Melissa stood with one of the neighbors. She wasn't empty-handed. In her arms was a thick folder clutched tight. Watching. Waiting. The folder she carried haunted me all night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it clutched in her arms under the streetlight. By morning I knew I had to fight back. The first step was evidence. My lawyer demanded records, school files, medical notes, even receipts from nights the kids stayed with me. I dug through old boxes in the basement. Dust coated my hands, the smell of cardboard filling the air. In one folder I found Sophie's report card, signed by me because Melissa never showed up. Emily handed me an old notebook. Look, she said. On one page Sophie had written at 13. Please let me stay at Aunt Karen's. I feel safe here. My throat tightened. Michael brought a stack of doctor's notes. Allergies. Flu. You signed every form, he said. She never came. The papers crinkled between his fingers louder than his voice. Melissa wasn't sitting idle. Word spread fast. A neighbor stopped me in the grocery store. She says you never let her see them, he muttered, eyes darting away. Another message appeared on Sophie's phone. Karen stole her sister's family. Some people will testify. Sophie's hand shook as she read it aloud. Mom visited one evening, tension heavy in her shoulders. She stood in the kitchen, looking at the pile of documents. Karen, she whispered, don't drag this into the open. It will shame us all. I stared at her. She's dragging us into it, Mom. Not me. My mother's lips pressed tight. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Emily touched my arm after she left. She'll never defend us against Mom. I nodded. The weight of the evidence pressed down on me, but so did the silence of our parents. A week later we had a small breakthrough. My lawyer found an old teacher willing to speak. Mrs. Jennings. She remembered nights when the twins waited in the school office until I picked them up. Her testimony could pierce the lies. That evening, as relief started to settle in, the phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I opened the message. A photo. Melissa outside the courthouse smiling, the same folder in her hands. The caption read, "See you soon." I didn't know then that inside that folder were affidavits already signed, people willing to swear I kept her children from her. The courtroom was colder than I expected. The air smelled of polish and old wood. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, steady and sharp. I sat with Emily, Sophie, and Michael close beside me. Their hands gripped mine tighter than they had in years. Melissa entered with her lawyer in that same folder. She dropped it on the table with a thud. Papers spilled slightly, edges bent, the sound louder than it should have been. Her eyes locked on me. She smiled, slow and triumphant. The judge called the case. Melissa's lawyer rose first. His voice was smooth, practiced. Your Honor, this is a case of alienation. My client, a devoted mother, was denied her rightful relationship with her children by her sister. Karen Miller manipulated, interfered, and ensured Melissa Carter's children turned against their own mother. Melissa nodded, playing the victim. Her hand brushed her cheek as if wiping away invisible tears. Then the first witness took the stand. It was Mrs. Nolan, an old neighbor. Her perfume filled the air, thick and cloying. She adjusted her glasses and said, "I never saw Melissa hurting the children, but I did see Karen picking them up constantly. It looked like she wanted to keep them to herself." Melissa's eyes flicked toward me, satisfied. Then Mom took the stand. My stomach twisted. Her voice was quiet but clear. Melissa made mistakes. But Karen, she was always so strict. Sometimes too strict. Maybe she wanted to be their mother. The words cut deeper than any knife. Sophie bit her lip until it bled. Michael whispered, "She doesn't believe us." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed silent. I wanted to shout, to shake my mother, but I couldn't. The judge watched, expression blank. My lawyer leaned over. "Hold steady. We'll break them." Then it was my turn. My lawyer called Mrs. Jennings, the teacher. She walked slowly to the stand, her shoes squeaking on the floor. She spoke firmly. "I remember the twins waiting after school. Melissa never came. Karen did. Always. She fed them, clothed them, signed every paper. Those children would have been lost without her." Melissa shifted in her seat, her smile fading. My lawyer handed over school files, medical notes, records with my signature where Melissa's should have been. The judge studied them, flipping pages one by one. The air grew heavy. Melissa's nails tapped the table, fast and sharp. When the session ended for the day, I stood to leave. Melissa brushed past me, her whisper hot against my ear. "Enjoy this little win. Tomorrow my witnesses will bury you." That night at home, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Michael closed every curtain. Emily sat with her laptop, scrolling through messages from people repeating Melissa's lies. Sophie looked out the window into the dark yard. Then she said quietly, "She won't stop. Even if we win, she won't stop." And deep down I knew she was right. The final hearing arrived. The courtroom was packed. Papers rustled, pens scratched, every sound sharper than usual. Melissa sat across from me, her lawyer whispering in her ear. That folder lay open on the table, stuffed with statements. She looked confident, almost glowing. When the judge called us forward, Melissa's lawyer spoke first. He paraded witnesses, old neighbors, family friends, even a coworker who barely knew her. Each one repeated the same story, that I had interfered, that I had stolen the children out of jealousy, that Melissa had been unfairly pushed aside. Melissa dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her voice breaking as she said, "I just want my children back. I just want my family whole." My stomach churned. Then it was our turn. My lawyer rose, calm and steady. He called Emily first. She walked to the stand, her heels clicking softly. Her voice was firm. She wasn't there. Aunt Karen was. She picked us up, fed us, sat with us when we were sick. She didn't steal us. She saved us. Sophie followed. She pulled out the folded note from years ago, the one that begged, "Don't leave us with her." The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. "Is this your handwriting?" Sophie nodded. "I was 13. I wrote it because I was afraid of my mother." Michael was last. He stood tall, his doctor's badge still clipped to his pocket. "Everything I am, I owe to my aunt. She didn't brainwash us. She gave us a chance to survive." His voice cracked but didn't break. Melissa shifted, her face tightening. My lawyer placed documents on the table. Medical forms, school records, all signed by me, not her. Mrs. Jennings repeated her testimony, steady and precise. Then the blow came. One of Melissa's witnesses slipped. Under cross-examination, she admitted Melissa had offered her money to speak. Gasps filled the room. Melissa's lawyer tried to recover, but the damage was done. The judge's expression hardened. He turned to Melissa. "You manipulated witnesses. You wasted this court's time." His gavel struck once, sharp and final. Case dismissed. Melissa's face twisted in rage. She stood, shouting, "You turned them against me. You'll regret this." Security stepped closer. She grabbed the folder, but papers spilled across the floor, scattering like broken promises. Emily, Sophie, and Michael rushed to me, their arms wrapped around mine. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Whole. We walked out of that courtroom together. Mom sat frozen on the bench, Dad's hand on her shoulder. She didn't look at me. Maybe she never will. Outside, the cold air hit my face. The children stood tall, no longer children but adults who had survived. Melissa stormed past us, clutching her empty folder, her eyes wild. But no one followed her this time. No one believed her anymore. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of her shadow. The fight was over. And we had won. Subscribe if you want more stories about families that break, secrets that surface, and betrayals that never stay hidden.